Okay, so this video is for someone who I had a consultation with today who I know is probably going to forget everything that I told them, or at least most of the stuff I've told them. So when you come back and ask, what was all that shit you said today? I'm just going to point you to this video. So if you're watching, hello. For those of you that don't know what we talked about today, we talked about how spells work. So casting a spell, not necessarily specific types of spells, but how do spells in general actually work. So I've drawn a brilliant little diagram. There it is, okay? I'll put it up on the screen because it'll probably make it easier for you to actually follow as opposed to my kind of scrawny writing. So we basically have the physical world where we are now, the astral world or other world. What you're essentially wanting to do is tie those two worlds together. So what happens in the physical world will happen in the astral world, and what happens in the astral world will happen in the physical world. So these two worlds essentially mirror each other. What happens in one must happen in the other. Maybe not exactly, but as best it can manifest, it will. So what you're aiming to do with a spell is to decide on what your desired effect is, what you want to manifest. So let's go for a potted plant. You want a new potted plant, you don't want to buy it, you want someone to give it to you, you want to happen across it, whatever, you want a fucking potted plant. Okay, we'll leave it simple at that. What you're going to do is you're going to, in some way, project for that potted plant, raise energy, and then send that energy off to the astral world, the other world. So what you're essentially doing is raising energy, programming it to do something, and then releasing it. And then that thing that you're projecting for should manifest. What a lot of people get confused over is they think that spell works a lot like chemistry, where you add one thing to another thing to another thing, and thereby you get a specific result. It doesn't really work like that. So most mundane people, or people when they view magic and look at what's going on physically, they see ceremonies or rituals or spell casting, and all they focus on is the physical aspects of that. So if you're making a candle and then burning it, all they really see and understand is, oh, it's a candle, it must be a magic candle. Or if you're seeing a ceremony or something like that, you just see some sort of weird person wafting incense around a room with a dagger or something. Those are physical, symbolic representations. So there is a lot more really going on that you can't see or necessarily understand. So you're only kind of focusing on the physical aspects. That's why it might be a little bit confusing. The reason for this, why you have physical symbolic aspects, is that because you want your effect to be mirrored in both worlds, what tends to happen is, yes, you can manifest things and cast spells just by projecting the full packed with enough energy. The problem is that a lot of beginners kind of struggle with that, and if you have a complicated spell, you're going to really want to break that down. So what I tend to think of it is in terms of, you have something going on physically, which is the physical part of your spell, to affect something that's going on astrally, which is the magical psychic side of your spell, and then the two together are working in tandem to create a kind of bridge between these two worlds, like that. So you want to link these two together. So yes, if you manifest something here, it will eventually trickle down and manifest here. Similarly, if you physically build with your hand something here, it will manifest astrally here. What you're wanting to do is the perfect spell ideally incorporates both. It incorporates your will, what you want to happen, and the energy being pushed towards that goal from a magical perspective. So the raising of energy, programming of it and then releasing it. But also it is easier to manifest if it already has a physical presence or a physical tie to this physical plane, which is what the physical aspects of your spell are. When you create a spell which has physical components, you're actually physically doing something. I don't mean to say physical too much, physical, but I'm trying to get across obviously the two aspects that you need to remember. You have what's going on up here, and the energy raising, and then you have what's going on down here in the physical world. So there are many different spells. I always say you should design and make your own, as opposed to getting them from books, simply for two reasons. One is that you have no idea how they formulated the spell that's written in the book. And if you have no idea how it's formulated, how can you really follow along with it? Another reason is that when you have a book and you're trying to perform a spell out of a book, all you really do is focus on, and I've seen this happen, you focus on the book. You're more focused on the book and doing things in the right order and saying the things you need to say and then putting the incense in the right place or the candle in the right place or using the right thing each time. You're spending more time on the procedure and reading it than you are actually projecting and putting energy into the actual working itself or into the spell itself, which obviously isn't good. If you're having to read something and it's taking all of your effort to understand, oh, am I doing this right? Am I doing the right? Oh, right, okay, so that's done. Now I need to do that. Then you're not actually doing, your mind isn't in the moment of casting the spell. So again, what you're aiming to do is you're aiming to tie the physical world and the astral world together whilst you're doing a spell. So in terms of what that would physically look like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of videos explaining some simple formulas which you can then alter based on what you want to project for. So we're going to do, the first one is going to be a jar spell, the second one is going to be a charm bag. So based on what you're wanting to do, you would pick a spell that's going to have a quick result, or you're going to have a spell which is going to have a long-term lasting result. So for example, if you wanted a new car, you're probably going to want to do a fast-acting single-use spell. If you want protection around your aura, around yourself, then you're going to want to do something long-lasting, something that you want to keep and grow and build upon. So you have single-use and you have continued use, basically. So I'm going to teach you a candle jar spell for a single use and a long-term charm bag for the long-term use. So those two videos, if they're not on the website or on the YouTube video archive already, they will be by the end of this week. So I suggest watching both of them because they are two different forms of spell casting. So you have, again, like I said, your single use, something that you want to happen quick essentially, and then your continued use, something that you want to grow and build on. Depending on what you want, you're going to pick one of those approaches. So like I said, you want a new car, you're going to use single use. You want to manifest luck in your life or attract money towards you or love towards you, you're going to do the long-term one, generally speaking. So remember, single use, jar spell on the archive. Continued use, charm bag will also be listed on the archive. I will break things down again in those videos, and I'll take you through the procedure. So obviously I'll explain more on those 2 videos. But remember, tying the physical world to the astral world and vice versa, because what happens in one will happen in the other. What happens in the other will happen in the other one, basically. I'm slurring my words a little bit because it's been a long day and it's quite late out. But you kind of get the gist, hopefully.